Chapter 6758. Since you're asking about the Buddha Gilded Body Elixir, I'm sure you know the effects of this elixir. In detail, the value of these two elixirs is about the same, the man said. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Senior, if you're sincerely willing to exchange, then let's talk about the conditions directly. There's no need to say these meaningless words. If you're not willing, then there's no need for us to waste both of our time. She knew very well that the old man in front of her was definitely an old fox. From the way he proposed the conditions of the exchange, it could be seen that he was planning to cheat as many people as he could. However, no one was a fool. As an alchemist, she was also very clear about the difference in value between the two elixir recipes. Naturally, she would not lose out. The man looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's wise and far-sighted appearance. In his heart, he also understood that it was impossible to directly exchange with her, so he had to give her something. Miss, since you've already gotten straight to the point, then I'll be honest and not beat around the bush. The man's expression became more serious. The value of these two elixir recipes is about the same. It's just that the requirements are different, so there's a difference. Otherwise, you can choose any one of these items in front. How about it? Looking in the direction that the man was pointing, there were some small trinkets placed in front of them. There were stones, runes, and metal. They were all piled up together in a mess, as if they were just some useless items. However, after taking a closer look, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that there was a strange fluctuation on these items. Obviously, these items did not look like anything on the surface, but they were definitely not ordinary items. Miss, don't look down on these items. These are all very interesting things. There's no lack of precious treasures among them. However, it's up to you how to crack them. The man smiled faintly. Boss, these items look strange. If you can't crack them, then it's useless to buy them back. Aren't you being too stingy? Yang Lingfeng could not help but say. He could also feel that the fluctuations on these items were not simple. However, if he could not crack them, then they were indeed useless trash. Don't think of taking advantage of me. If I wasn't really interested in the eternal azure spirit elixir, I wouldn't have made such a concession. Take a closer look, the value of these items is not low. The boss pointed to a small sign in front of him, on which the prices of these things were written. Indeed, the price was not low. This price was enough for them to buy a pill that could help them break through. Hiss! Yang Lingfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt that the boss was really evil. These seemingly useless things were actually sold at such a price. At this time, Bewitching took out a stone full of words from a pile of things and said, "I'll take this." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the stone in Bewitching's hand. Although she did not know why he chose this stone, it was indeed difficult to choose from such a pile of small things. It was undoubtedly good that he had taken a fancy to something. Miss, can we exchange now? The boss's face was full of smiles as he impatiently handed the pill formula for the Buddha Gilded Body Elixir to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang also gave the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill's pill recipe to the boss. She recorded the pill recipe on the memory stone. After the boss looked at it, the contents would disappear. Chapter 6759. After receiving the memory stone, the shopkeeper immediately checked its contents. However, he was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang would not lie to him at a time like this. That would be tantamount to digging her own grave. After carefully looking at the contents and confirming that there was no doubt about the pill formula, the smile on his face became even more radiant. Miss, it's been a pleasure working with you. If there's anything else we can exchange in the future, I'll definitely give you the best discount. The shopkeeper's eyes were filled with surprise. He had wanted to exchange for this pill formula for a long time. Unfortunately, the pill formula had been lost for too long and finding it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He never thought that he would actually find it in the hands of a young lady. This made him feel even more delighted. If there's a chance, I'll come again. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She was also very happy to be able to exchange for the Buddha Gilded Body Pill. This was because this was a pill that they needed very much at the moment. Furthermore, Granny had once said that this pill would be very helpful to them. Even if the value between the two was slightly different, she did not mind. After memorizing the pill formula for the Buddha Gilded Body pill, Bailey Hongzhuang left her original stall. Hongzhuang, you really do have the pill formula for the Eternal Azure Spirit pill. Even after the transaction was completed, Yang Qinxue was still in disbelief. She had heard of this pill formula before. It had been lost for so many years and there was almost no hope for it. However, Hongzhuang had casually taken it out. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I just happened to have it on my hands. I still feel that this transaction was not worth it. This fellow is definitely taking advantage of us. Yang Lingfeng pursed his lips. When he thought of the shopkeeper's Scrooge, he could not help but sigh. It was simply not worth it. Looking at the incomparably indignant and sorrowful expression of the man beside her, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but laugh. Lingfeng, actually, this transaction is not considered a loss. The Buddha Gilded Body pill is a pill that we really need right now. Furthermore, I believe that Beichen's choice of item will not be a loss. Hearing this, Yang Lingfeng turned his attention to Di Beichen. Beichen, is the stone you took out really useful? Di Beichen played with the stone in his hand. When I get back, I'll try to see if I can crack it. I vaguely feel that I'm fated with this stone. Previously, when Hongzhuang wanted to exchange for the Buddha Gilded Body elixir, his attention had landed on this rock. Even if Hongzhuang didn't buy it, he still planned to buy this stone. Since you like it so much, it shouldn't be wrong. Yang Lingfeng smiled. In fact, he only felt that his boss was too stingy. As for other things, this was Hongzhuang's choice. What else could he say? Moreover, what was needed was the most precious. Since I've exchanged for this Buddha Gilded Body elixir, I have to think of a way to buy more medicinal ingredients for this elixir. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked her eyes. She had just looked at the pill recipe, and there were a lot of uncommon herbs required. When they got back, it would be too difficult to just go through the medicinal herb shop to gather these herbs. Therefore, they had to seize this opportunity. We'll set up the stall in front in a while. We'll set up the stall while we buy what we need. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and slowly walked forward. He felt a little lucky. Come to think of it, we've really gained a lot this time. Chapter 6760. Our stall is very close to Shinduanyu. Who knows, he might come looking for trouble if we bump into him later. Yang Qinxue looked at the position of their stall, then looked at a spot not far away. They were only diagonally across from Shinduanyu's stall. One could notice their presence with just a quick glance. However, under the current circumstances, they couldn't change their stall. Because they had arrived earlier, the stalls at the back were arranged according to time. If they rashly went to the back, a lone stall would appear even more strange. Don't bother with them. We'll just set up our own stalls. In any case, they can't cause too much trouble here. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the elixirs from her Qingkuan bag one by one. Then, she took out a piece of paper and wrote down the name and price of each elixir in detail. You're right, Yang Lingfeng nodded. The steward here wasn't just for show. If anyone dared to cause trouble here, it meant that they wouldn't have the chance to come here again in the future. Anyone with a brain wouldn't choose to make a scene here. Di Beichen wasn't slow either. He placed the array stones in a row in an orderly manner with the same annotations below. In a short period of time, the small stall was set up. Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, you two set up your stall here. We'll go over there and take a look. Yang Qinxue looked at the two of them. It was obvious that they didn't intend to leave for the time being. They didn't have anyone here to help look after the stall, so they could only set up their own stall. You two go ahead. Don't worry about us here. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Along the way, they already had a good idea of what kind of things there were. Along the way, she had already bought some immortal spirit herbs. She couldn't afford to buy anything with the blood spirit stones she had on hand. She could only wait until she sold some things to buy other things. Have you gathered a set of medicinal ingredients for the Buddha Gilded Body elixir? Di Beichen took out a small stool and placed it behind Bailey Hongzhuang. He sat down again and asked, We've already gathered one portion. However, there are so many of us, so one portion is obviously not enough. We need to gather at least 1 or 2 more portions. Although she was quite confident in her alchemy skills, the grade of this Buddha Gilded Body pill was not low. With her current alchemy skills, there was still a certain chance of failure. To be on the safe side, it was better to prepare more medicinal herbs. Are you thirsty? Bewitching took out a glass of water and handed it to him. Drink some water and rest for a while. This place is a little remote, so I'm afraid that people won't come until later. Because the stalls in this area were all temporarily set up, the quality of the goods was also mixed. Therefore, most cultivators would only come here after they had finished browsing through the stalls in front. However, it was undeniable that compared to the stalls that had been set up earlier, the prices here were the most affordable, so there was no need to worry. There would definitely be people coming. After Bailey Hongzhuang drank a cup of water, a playful look suddenly appeared on her face. I've thought of a way to attract people. Bewitching raised his eyebrows and looked at the mischievous woman beside him. What method? Chapter 67-61. Usually, they did not want to be watched by others, but what they needed most now was to attract people to their stall. Wasn't this their trump card? After all, they were different from Shen Duanyu. He had his master's halo, and many people came to buy his array stones because of his reputation. On the other hand, they were two nameless people. If they did not think of other ways and waited for people who wandered by to discover them, they did not know how long they would have to wait. Bewitching turned to look at Xiao Hei on his shoulder. It's indeed a good idea. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai widened their eyes and looked at their master who had sold them out in the blink of an eye. Their hearts were filled with anger. Master, buy some good food tonight, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Deal. Almost in the blink of an eye, the two little fellows were already beaming with joy and agreed. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. These two little fellows had been together for so many years, but their gluttonous nature had not changed at all. No matter what it was, as long as this trump card was brought up, they would agree without hesitation. Originally, there were only a few people, but after Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai appeared, many people were instantly attracted by this pair of cute little children. Look, those two children are so cute. These children are so beautiful. They look like carved jade, as if they came out of a painting. Why don't you look at the children's parents? It would be strange if their children were inferior. While everyone was attracted by the two cute little children, they naturally noticed Bewitching and Xiao Hei at the side. They were immediately amazed by the family of four's outstanding appearance. Even just looking at them was pleasing to the eye. Darling, let Auntie pinch your little cheeks. Oh, they look even cuter up close. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were ready to risk everything for the sake of having more good food tonight. They revealed soft and cute smiles on their faces, and they looked even more likable. Under such circumstances, the cultivators who came were naturally embarrassed to just look and not buy. With a glance, they discovered that the things on this stall were cheap and beautiful. Immediately, they bought without hesitation. In a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang's stall had surpassed Shen Duanyu's stall and became the most popular stall in the vicinity. Not only that, but because there were too many people gathered at the front, the people at the back who didn't know what was going on also gathered together. Since so many people have come to buy it, these two people must be of high status. Their items should be very good. This price is not as expensive as other stores. Why don't we buy it here? Boss, I want to buy this. Boss, I want this array stone. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching were selling things while collecting money. When they saw that something was sold, they quickly took it out to make up for it. The items that they thought would take a long time to sell were sold out in a short period of time. This speed surprised the two of them. Sure enough, the lethality of the two cute little babies was too great. Duanyu, I think you'd better not waste your effort. This Buddha Gilded Body Pill's pill formula can't be exchanged at all. The man looked at the frowning Shen Duanyu and couldn't help but comfort him. Master has always wanted this pill formula. Unfortunately, the stall owner is too stubborn. No matter what price I offered, he wasn't willing to sell it. Chapter 67-62. You know my senior brother very well. Recently, he has been trying to make Master happy. If I don't think of something, won't I be defeated by him? Shen Duanyu frowned. He originally wanted to use this array master competition to get a good performance and then win his master's favor. Who would have thought that his senior brother had recently coaxed his master to be so happy that his master's attention towards him had obviously decreased? If he didn't think of a way to win this round, he was afraid that the following days would not be easy. Although that's the case, the stall owner also said that other than the Eternal Cyan Spirit Pills pill formula, he won't exchange anything else. It's been like this all these years. Where can we get the Eternal Cyan Spirit Pills pill formula? The man sighed. It would be great if he could exchange the pill formula back. Then, Shen Duanyu would have completely defeated his senior brother. Unfortunately, it was too difficult to do this. Shen Duanyu looked worried and said helplessly, "Let's think of another way. Hard work pays off. Maybe we can make the stall owner change his mind." While thinking, Shen Duanyu slowly walked towards the stall. He didn't believe that the stall owner would be so cold-hearted that he wouldn't be willing to relent even if he tried to persuade him every day. However, when Shen Duanyu walked in front of the stall, he found that the Buddha Gilded Body Pills pill formula had disappeared. Seeing this, he subconsciously rubbed his eyes, wondering if he had seen wrongly. "Senior, even if I come to find you often, you don't have to hide the Buddha Gilded Body Pills pill formula, right?" Shen Duanyu was a little helpless. He also knew that the stall owner despised him for coming every day. However, it was a little too exaggerated to completely give up on the deal just because of this. After the stall owner obtained the Eternal Cyan Spirit Pills pill formula, he was very happy. Even the guy who came to disturb him every day became more pleasing to the eye. "You're not worth it for me to do this." The stall owner waved his hand. "You don't have to come every day. The Buddha Gilded Body Pills pill formula has been exchanged. It's gone." Shen Duanyu was stunned. He looked at the stall owner in disbelief and said, "Exchanged? How is this possible? Was it really exchanged with the Eternal Cyan Spirit Pills pill formula?" Almost immediately, Shen Duanyu felt a strong sense of unwillingness in his heart. He did not believe that the other party really used the Eternal Azure Spiritual Elixir to exchange. The stall owner must have changed the conditions. Why was it that the stall owner was unwilling to change his mind even after he had tried so hard to persuade him for so long, but the other party changed his mind as soon as he arrived? Naturally, it's the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. I've already said it before. Unless you use this pill formula to exchange, I won't exchange anything else, the stall owner said indifferently. It really is the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. Shen Duanyu spoke in a daze. Although he still couldn't believe it, he understood from the stall owner's expression that no matter how unbelievable it seemed, it had really happened. "Stall owner, since you've already exchanged for the Eternal Azure Spirit Pills pill formula, can you sell me the Buddha Gilded Body Pills pill formula?" Shen Duanyu's eyes lit up. This pill formula could be sold again. Now that he had the Eternal Azure Spirit pill formula, he could use other things to exchange or buy it. However, the smile on the stall owner's face suddenly turned ugly after hearing this. "If I casually sell a pill formula, what kind of person do you think I am?" Chapter 67-63. Although the pill formula was not gone after being sold, generally speaking, everyone was very law-abiding. Since this pill formula was exchanged for something very precious, then one could not casually sell it again. Otherwise, it would be not keeping one's word, and it would also reduce the pill formula's value. This was a rule that almost everyone abided by, especially precious pill formulas that had been lost for a long time. It was precisely because of this that they appeared to be precious. When Shen Duanyu saw the stall owner's expression suddenly become so serious, he immediately did not dare to say anything else. He could only secretly curse in his heart. "Senior, I wonder if you can tell me who exchanged for the Buddha Gilded Body Pill?" The stall owner looked at Shen Duanyu coldly, his face full of displeasure. "I won't tell you. Leave quickly." Seeing the stall owner waving his hand in disgust, Shen Duanyu also felt displeased. However, due to the other party's strength, he did not dare to cause trouble here and could only leave resentfully. "Duanyu, are you planning to give up just like that?" "Of course not." A trace of malice appeared in Shen Duanyu's eyes. "There are so many people around this stall. As long as I pay a little attention, there will always be someone who noticed who exchanged for the pill formula." The man's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood. That's right. I'll send someone to ask right now. After Shen Duanyu sent someone to help inquire, he walked back to his stall. This time, he was surprised to find that his stall was actually not the one with the best business. Instead, the stall diagonally opposite was now full of cultivators. That lively scene was so lively that it was impossible to see what was being sold inside. Could it be another master's disciple? Shen Duanyu frowned. His stall was originally the most in the limelight. Now, he did not know who came and actually snatched his limelight again. Duanyu, this person can't be your eldest senior brother, right? The man said with an ugly expression. A while ago, because Shen Duanyu's attainments in formation skills were getting higher and higher, his senior brother had some opinions about him. This period of time, he even wanted to completely squeeze him out. Originally, he did not care at all. However, recently, no matter what happened, his senior brother wanted to have a foot in it. His situation became more and more difficult. Let's go take a look. Shen Duanyu's face instantly turned cold, and he quickened his pace towards the stall. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were very busy. At first, everyone was completely attracted by the two little guys, so they started to buy their things. Later on, as more and more people came, everyone's attention was focused on the things they were selling. Xiao He and Xiao Bai, on the other hand, were much more relaxed at the side. At this rate, this thing will be sold out in just one afternoon. Xiao He had a smug look on her face. Now that everyone was strolling around the area, it would be a little boring if they continued to set up their stalls here. The sooner they sold out, the sooner they could go to other places. Don't worry, this speed is very fast. Xiao Bai nodded. You should think about what you want to eat tonight. Yang Qinxue and Yi Zichen walked around the stalls at the back and then went to look at the contract beasts. The contract beasts here could be said to be of extremely high level, which was very suitable for cultivators. Chapter 67-64. Let's go back and take a look. Beichen and the others are unfamiliar faces. Although it's good to set up a stall, I'm afraid that business won't be very good. Yang Qinxue sighed. Although there was a lot of traffic, everyone was more focused on rare treasures. There were fewer people buying ordinary pills and array stones. We have to think of a way to let more people see it. Yang Lingfeng nodded slightly. Take Shen Duanyu for example. If one were to say that his things were good, it wouldn't be so. However, the reason why his stall's business was better than others was undoubtedly because of his reputation. Just as the two of them were thinking of a way to help the two of them, they found that the familiar stall in front of them was already full of people for some reason. From time to time, they could even hear the sound of people buying things. The lively scene was simply like a rush to buy things. The two of them silently looked at each other. For a moment, did they remember the location of the stall wrongly? They shouldn't be mistaken, right? Yang Qinxue asked uncertainly. Yang Lingfeng looked around carefully. It should be here. Look diagonally across, isn't that Shen Duanyu's stall? Yang Qinxue looked in front of her and her heart became certain. She was suddenly speechless. It's only been a while. What on earth did they do? How did they attract so many people? I don't know. Yang Lingfeng shook his head. However, it seems that they don't need our help. You're right. The two of them went around to the back of the stall. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Lingfeng's busy appearance, their original worries completely dissipated. Hongzhuang and the others are really amazing. I think the reason why Gongjun's Immortal Treasure Pavilion's business is so good has a lot to do with Hongzhuang and the others. This kind of business mind is not something that ordinary people can have. Yang Lingfeng smiled and nodded. Look, Shen Duanyu's stall's business can't even compare to theirs. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw the two of them coming, she also smiled and nodded. However, she didn't have time to say anything and continued to busy herself with collecting blood spirit stones. Yang Lingfeng and Yang Lingfeng simply helped from the side. As soon as they sold these things, they could close the stall as soon as possible. Duanyu, this stall wasn't set up by your senior brother. The man walked to Shen Duanyu's side and said with a complicated expression. Hearing this, Shen Duanyu quietly heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't his senior brother who did it, it was fine. Since it's not my senior brother, why do you still have such an expression? The corner of the man's mouth twitched. You know the person who set up this stall? I know him. Shen Duanyu was slightly cold. One by one, figures flashed through his mind. In the end, he still couldn't figure out who it was. Who is it? It's the guy we met before, Bewitching. As soon as these words came out, Shen Duanyu's expression suddenly changed. He looked at the lively little stall again and his gaze turned gloomy. He's just an unknown array master. How could he attract so many people here to buy things? Is he worthy? It's not just him. There's also Bailey Hongzhuang's pills. Shen Duanyu thought for a moment. In his heart, he understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in medicine and alchemy were indeed outstanding. However, he couldn't accept that Bewitching had overshadowed him because of this. I understand. Then what do you plan to do? The man asked. Chapter 67-65. That's right, if you find out about the cultivator who exchanged for the Buddha gilded body elixir, remember to inform me immediately. Shen Duanyu instructed, no matter what the other party says, you must find a way to get him to agree. He did not believe that everyone was as difficult to deal with as the stall owner. As long as the other party was willing to relent, it would be worth it even if he had to pay a little more. Don't worry, I understand. After giving his instructions, Shen Duanyu then spoke lazily. Bewitching, you're just a mediocre array master, yet you're trying to steal the limelight by playing tricks here. Isn't that too laughable? After saying this, Shen Duanyu stared coldly in front of him with a hint of complacency in his eyes. Since Bewitching wanted to steal the limelight so badly, he would expose his true colors in front of so many people. Let's see what he would do then. However, after saying this, he realized that everyone in front of him was still busy buying things and had no intention of paying any attention to him. On the other hand, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest heard this familiar voice and a hint of disgust appeared between their brows. Shen Duanyu is really like a ghost that won't go away. Now he's here to cause trouble again. Yang Qinshue lowered her voice and said coldly. Yang Lingfeng frowned slightly. What do we do now? This guy likes to steal the limelight so much. I'm afraid he won't give up until he achieves his goal. Shen Duanyu looked at the scene where no one paid any attention to him and his expression became unusually awkward. This situation was clearly beyond his expectations. Bewitching, you're using your inferior array stones to swindle people here. Everyone, don't be fooled by him. Shen Duanyu shouted again, his voice twice as loud as before. It was not until this moment that the cultivators who were buying pills and formation stones turned their heads and realized that he was talking about the stall owner. Everyone's gaze fell on Shen Duanyu. The cultivators who had just bought the array stones were also a little stunned. Inferior array stones? You're saying that we bought inferior array stones? The crowd looked at the array stones in their hands. After looking at the price, they felt that these array stones were very good and the value of the items was very high. Most importantly, this array seemed to be more powerful than the trapping array they usually used. It was because of this that they bought it one after another. If this was an inferior array stone, then things would be different. There was a rule in the bazaar that cultivators who bought things could not request for a refund. As long as the other party didn't deceive you, then the items you chose would depend on your own judgment. If you couldn't choose a good item, then it would be your own fault. Inferior array stone. Bewitching narrowed his eyes after hearing this, and a cold light shot out from his eyes. That's right, you guys bought inferior array stones. Shen Duanyu proudly raised his eyebrows. This guy didn't even take part in the array master's assessment. You actually dare to buy the array stones he made. Aren't you a little too bold? As soon as he said this, the crowd's expressions suddenly changed. They all looked at Bewitching and Shen Duanyu. Is what he said true? Without waiting for Bewitching to answer, the cultivator beside Shen Duanyu said, of course it's true. He's from Cloud City and we know his level of array skills very well. He's just taking this opportunity to come here and make money. Shen Duanyu, what nonsense are you talking about? Chapter 67-66. Isn't what I said the truth? Shen Duanyu raised his eyebrows. He's just someone who has just ascended to the chaotic immortal realm. His level of array skills. You can imagine. Yang Qingxue was furious. However, she did not know how to refute his words. This was because Bewitching had just ascended and did not take part in the assessment. Even if he was asked to take out his array master badge, he would not be able to do so. Just because I didn't take part in the assessment doesn't mean that my array skills are bad. Bewitching slowly stood up. His deep eyes were like glaciers in the far north. The wind and snow were drifting in the air. You keep saying that my array skills are bad. What evidence do you have? Shen Duanyu laughed. Your array stones are already the evidence. How can the array stones made by a person like you be any good? I heard that when we were in Shiyun City, someone said that the array stones you made could not be used to perform arrays. Don't tell me you don't know that yourself? I dare you to spout nonsense again. A murderous aura erupted from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. The previous matter was just some despicable villains who took the opportunity to frame us. Later, the matter was investigated clearly, and everyone already knew what was going on. But you still dare to say this. It's simply pouring dirty water. I don't know whether this is the truth or not. You have such a good relationship with the city lord. Even if it's true, the city lord's name can completely cover it up, right? Shen Duanyu did not believe her at all. He had heard this from others. However, he felt that it was true. How strong could an array master who did not have any master teach him be? As the city lord's savior, they could help him cover up everything. After hearing this conversation, the people who didn't know what was going on began to understand a little. Although they knew that Shen Duanyu must have a personal grudge against them, Bewitching and the others did not refute his words. Just from this point alone, it was enough to prove that everything he said was true. When they thought of this, everyone couldn't help but feel shocked. They didn't want their money to be wasted like this. You haven't even participated in the Array Master's assessment, yet you dare to sell array stones. That's too much. No, I don't want this array stone anymore. Give me my money back. I don't want it either. Refund it quickly. All of a sudden, the surrounding cultivators who had bought the array stones requested for a refund. Their gazes towards Bewitching and the others were filled with hostility. Shen Duanyu looked at all of this proudly. Two guys with no power and no influence still wanted to show off in front of him. They were simply courting death. Stop arguing. Yang Lingfeng was also angry. The market has always had a rule. As long as there's no problem with the item, no returns are allowed. They were already short of blood spirit stones. Only by selling these things would they be able to buy what they needed. Now that Shen Duanyu had stirred things up, even if they set up a stall in the future, no one would come to buy them. Therefore, in this situation, they absolutely could not give in. Once they gave in, it would be equivalent to confirming this name. Even their reputation would be affected. How can you do this? Chapter 67-67. Such a huge commotion instantly attracted the attention of the entire bazaar. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching wanted to explain, but because there were too many people around, their voices were suppressed. What's going on? At this moment, a voice filled with majesty rang out, and the originally noisy scene instantly quieted down. Bailey Hongzhuang also turned to look at the person who came, and she was surprised to find that this person was the manager of the bazaar. When Shen Duanyu saw the person who came, he immediately became excited and quickly said, "Manager Zhang, there's a problem with the array stones that this guy is selling." When the person beside him saw that Shen Duanyu directly said that there was a problem with Bewitching's array stones, he couldn't help but feel anxious. "Duanyu, don't you think you're going overboard?" Although he also felt that Bewitching's array stones weren't worth such a price, and it wasn't worth so many people fighting over them, this didn't mean that there was a problem with the array stones. If he lied in front of the steward, the consequences would be very serious. "Don't worry, there's no problem." Shen Duanyu didn't care. Since there was a problem with the array stones that Bewitching made before, there must be a problem with the array stones here with so many of them. If he used another name, he wouldn't be able to stand firm. However, if he used this name, Bewitching definitely wouldn't be able to stay here any longer. When the time came, even if he participated in the competition, he would be notorious. If anyone dared to go against him, this would be the outcome. After hearing this, Manager Zhang's expression became dignified, and he looked at Di Beichen with a hint of scrutiny. Is what he said true? If anyone dared to sell fake goods in the bazaar, they would be chased out and never allowed to enter again. Di Beichen calmly said, "He's wrong. The array stones that I made are all effective." Looking at the cultivators in front of him, he continued, "If you don't want to buy it, I can give you a refund. However, this doesn't mean that there's a problem with my items." As soon as he said that, many cultivators returned the array stones. Di Beichen gave Yang Qinxue and Yang Qinxue a look, indicating that they could return the array stones now. Seeing this, although the two of them were unwilling, they understood that this matter was related to Di Beichen's dignity and immediately began to refund the money. Steward Zhang looked at Di Beichen's appearance with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Based on this brat's unyielding appearance, it didn't seem like he was lying. Selling fake goods in the market is a very serious matter. I will investigate this matter thoroughly. Manager Zhang's gaze swept across Di Beichen and Shen Duanyu's body. If it is found that there is indeed a problem with your array stone, then you will receive a very severe punishment. If there is no problem with the array stone, then you will also be punished for slandering others. Seeing how Manager Zhang treated everyone equally, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in relief. This at least proved that Manager Zhang would not collude with Shen Duanyu. As for the inspection, they were not worried at all. Shen Duanyu looked at Manager Zhang's serious expression and his heart was beating like a drum. However, he quickly calmed down. There must be a problem with Di Beichen's array stone. Soon, Manager Zhang gave a few instructions to his subordinate, who quickly turned and left. Master Shen is coincidentally here. Today, I'll let Master Shen see if there is a problem with this array stone. Chapter 67-68. Not only did many people return the array stones, but they also returned the pills. In everyone's eyes, Di Beichen and his brother had already become liars. However, the crowd did not leave just yet. Instead, they stood in the same spot and waited for the results. Yang Lingfeng was originally in an extremely bad mood. However, when he heard that Master Shen would be arriving soon, he looked at Shen Duanyu with a playful gaze. There is absolutely no problem with the array stones that Beichen made. After Master Shen inspects the array stones, Shen Duanyu will be the unlucky one. If this had never happened before, he might be a little worried. However, after being framed by Guan Hongtian, they were full of confidence in Beichen. This guy is so annoying. He should be punished. Yang Qinxue narrowed her eyes. She originally thought that this guy was not bad. Now, she felt that she had misjudged him. Who is Master Shen? Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that after hearing Master Shen's name, a look of reverence appeared on the faces of the people around her. Therefore, she was a little curious. They are talking about Master Shen Xing. Master Shen Xing is a very famous array master in the chaotic immortal realm. He is one of the masters in charge of the assessment of the array master competition, Yang Qinxue said in a low voice. Bailey Hongzhuang was even more surprised when she heard this. A master like this is actually here to help us appraise the array stones? Don't be fooled by Master Shen's high position. He has always been approachable. Moreover, this market is under the supervision of the Array Formation Guild. Every day, there will be a master in charge. I think it's Master Shen's turn today. Yang Qinxue smiled. Speaking of which, we are really lucky. Master Shen has always been a fair and impartial person. With him here to uphold justice, we don't have to worry about anything. That's right. Master Shen is really a respectable person. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw the look of admiration on the siblings' faces, she felt a little more respect for Master Shen. They did not have to wait for long. Soon, Master Shen appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up and saw Master Shen in a light green robe. His kind face was dignified and dignified. At a glance, there was a sense of righteousness. Steward Zhang, I heard that someone is selling fake goods in the market? Master Shen went straight to the point as soon as he arrived. Manager Zhang nodded slightly and pointed at Shen Duanyu. This kid said that the array stone he sold was fake. I can't judge the array stone well, so I can only ask Grandmaster Shen to appraise it. As soon as Shen Duanyu saw Shen Xing, his face was full of smiles. Speaking of which, both of them had the surname Shin. This was also a kind of fate. Master Shin, this guy hasn't even participated in the Array Master's assessment, but he's here trying to swindle people and spread the news that so many people are fighting over his Array stones. I know him. He did the same thing before and was exposed by others. When he heard Shin Duanyu's accusation, he gradually frowned and looked at Bewitching. He felt that this kid didn't look like someone who liked to fake things. I will investigate this matter thoroughly. If it's true, you will be expelled from the Array Master Association forever and will not be able to participate in any activities of the Array Master Association. Chapter 67-69. Looking at the man in front of him who was neither servile nor overbearing, Shin Shing continued, anyone who is arbitrarily wronged will receive the same punishment. Thank you, Master. Bewitching cupped his hands in salute. Everyone looked at Bewitching's calm and indifferent appearance, and their hearts were a little drumming. Logically speaking, he was selling fake goods. At this time, he should be very anxious and just want to leave. However, his unhurried appearance seemed to be not afraid of the inspection at all, which made them a little puzzled. What's going on? Why isn't this man worried at all? Could it be that Shin Duanyu is lying? Shin Duanyu is Master Zhen's disciple. How can he be full of nonsense? Isn't he looking for trouble? Anyway, one of these two must be lying, but judging from their expressions, I really can't tell who the problem is. Shin Duanyu stared at Master Shin Shing, who began to inspect, and his palms couldn't help but sweat. When he heard the content of the punishment, he couldn't help but panic a little. He shouldn't have directly announced it in a moment of anger. In fact, as long as there was a problem with Bewitching's formation stone, he didn't need to say much when the time came and others would find him out. Now, he put himself in danger and took such a risk. Thinking of this, Shin Duanyu winked at the man next to him. The man immediately understood and quietly disappeared into the crowd. Shen Xing inspected the formation stones on the stall. As a formation master, he could judge the authenticity of the formation stones with a casual glance. A person who hadn't taken the formation master assessment didn't mean that he wasn't a formation master. Shen Xing didn't care about this because he had also seen many formation masters who hadn't taken the assessment, but their formation skills weren't bad. However, when he saw Bewitching's formation stone, a trace of surprise appeared between his eyebrows. This was because he found that this formation stone, which was not of a high level, was actually of a very high level. Everyone only saw Master Shin carefully looking at the formation stone in his hand. He didn't speak for a long time, and his heart was constantly drumming. Shen Duanyu breathed a sigh of relief, and a trace of pride appeared on his face. Master Shin, there's a problem with the formation stone he made. With Master Shin's strength, if there was no problem with the array stone, he would be able to determine it immediately. Why would he bother to study it for so long? Come to think of it, he just didn't want to wrongly accuse Bewitching, so he took a little more time. There really is a problem. Isn't this kid too daring? How dare you fake it in this kind of situation? You're courting death. He won't appear here again in the future. He's really a black sheep. TSK. Fortunately, I returned the item. Fortunately, he still has some self-awareness. Everyone's eyes were filled with disgust. They hated this kind of person the most. Right at this moment, Shen Xing raised her head to look at Bewitching, and a faint smile appeared on her amiable face. Who did you learn your array techniques from? Bewitching replied, my teacher is a senior, but he has been living in seclusion in the mountains, so it is inconvenient for me to reveal his name. I hope you can forgive me. He had already agreed that he couldn't use his master's name when he came out this time. In addition, his master had been living in seclusion for a long time, so it was inconvenient for him to reveal his name. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if someone asked about their whereabouts. Chapter 67-70. As Shen Xing's voice fell, the expressions of everyone present couldn't help but change. Some of them didn't quite understand the deeper meaning of these words. Shen Xing looked at many array stones in a row and was surprised to find that there were actually the same imprints on these array stones. A certain possibility suddenly came to his mind, and a trace of nervousness and inquiry immediately appeared on his face. Little friend, Is the green leaf imprint on these array stones the one you left behind? Bewitching nodded slightly. That's right. Why did you do this? This is just a habit I learned from my master. Everyone has to be responsible for what they do, and this can also remind me at all times. Bewitching smiled faintly. When he first heard his master's words, he felt a little strange, but after getting used to it, he felt that this was indeed a very good method. Shen Xing's expression shook, and even his breathing became a little rapid. Little friend, is your master a master who doesn't smile much? Hearing this, Bewitching's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Based on the change in Shen Xing's expression, could it be that he knows my master? Bailey Hongzhuang also found it a little hard to believe. They didn't know anything about Senior Zhong Li's past. Although they were very clear that Senior Zhong Li must have been a well-known figure in the immortal realm in the past, so far, they really didn't know about the reputation of others except for Granny Hua's reputation. At least, they had never heard of Senior Zhong Li's name in the immortal realm. Senior, have you seen my master? Bewitching asked. Even through the look in Bewitching's eyes, Shen Xing had already realized that his judgment of the situation was very likely correct. Now that he heard his answer, he suddenly became even more excited. Many years ago, I was fortunate to receive guidance from Senior, and I have always remembered it in my heart. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see Senior again for so many years. I didn't expect you to be his disciple. In an instant, Shen Xing looked at Bewitching with a gaze full of intimacy. Yang Qingxue and Bailey Hongzhuang were completely dumbfounded at this moment. What did they just hear? Master Shen actually addressed Bewitching's master as Senior, and even received guidance from his master many years ago? Speaking of which, their relationship was almost equivalent to that of a senior brother and a junior brother. They had inexplicably increased in seniority. Bewitching's master is actually so powerful? Yang Lingfeng found it hard to believe. He had always known that Bewitching had never been tested before. His level of array techniques was worrying, but he never expected his master to be such an amazing person. How strong was Master Shen's array skills? He was one of the most powerful formation masters in the chaotic immortal realm. Since Bewitching's master was able to give him pointers, his strength could be imagined. You really don't show off. Yang Qingxue's lips twitched. When she looked at Shen Duanyu again, the disdain in her eyes was even more obvious. Although Shen Duanyu's master was also very powerful, it was obviously incomparable to Bewitching's master. However, just because this fellow had such a master, he was extremely arrogant all day long. Bewitching was the one who was truly low-key. Not only Yang Qingxue and Bailey Hongzhuang, but everyone present was also completely dumbfounded after hearing Shen Xing's words. Master Shen's master gave Master Shen pointers? Then, as the disciple of an expert, Bewitching's array skills were simply unimaginable. Chapter 67-71. Bewitching is just a nobody. If he really has such a powerful master, why hasn't he said anything for so long? This doesn't make sense at all. Grandmaster Shen, could you be mistaken? Bewitching has just arrived in the chaotic immortal realm. It's impossible for him to know the master you're talking about. Shen Duanyu tried to remind him. It was a little too arbitrary to be so sure just based on a mark. Shen Xing also recovered from his previous excitement at this moment. The current situation was not suitable to continue this topic, so he changed the topic and said, I've already checked these formation stones. There's nothing wrong with them. Shen Xing looked at Shen Duanyu and said, Are you deliberately slandering him because of a personal grudge? Grandmaster Shen, are these formation stones all right? Manager Zhang couldn't help but ask. He didn't expect this young boy to have such a powerful background. He couldn't help but be shocked. Shen Xing nodded slightly and said, Yes. Impossible, there's definitely something wrong with these formation stones. Shen Duanyu didn't believe this result. Grandmaster Shen, you can't help him just because you've received a favor from his master. Shen Duanyu was completely anxious. If he was deprived of the opportunity to be a formation master, how could he establish a foothold in the future? Not only him, but even his master would lose face. Shen Xing's face turned cold when he heard this. So you're saying that I'm deliberately slandering you? The cold voice was filled with endless majesty. Shen Xing's face, which was originally pleasant, suddenly turned cold. The surrounding atmosphere seemed to have frozen at this moment. Under this terrifying gaze, Shen Duanyu couldn't help but feel a little guilty. There was a hint of panic on his face. "Grandmaster Shen, I didn't mean that." Shen Duanyu hurriedly explained, "I just think that this matter might not be investigated clearly." "So, you're questioning my ability?" Shen Xing asked again. Shen Duanyu was completely flustered. At this moment he was simply regretting it. If he had known this would happen, he would never have said these words. However, now that things had come to this point, he couldn't admit it. Otherwise, he would be completely finished. "Master Shen, what did my disciple do to make you angry?" At this moment, a voice rang out from behind him. When it entered Shen Duanyu's ears, it was like the sound of nature. He turned his head in surprise and saw a familiar figure. After Zhen Gudao looked at Shen Duanyu, a complicated look appeared in his eyes. However, he still turned his gaze to Shen Xing. "This is your new disciple?" When Shen Xing saw Zhen Gudao appear, a trace of a fierce expression swept away from her face, and it recovered its previous refreshing appearance. Zhen Gudao nodded slightly. "That's right. I wanted to let you meet him earlier, but I've been too busy these past few days, so I didn't have the time. We can catch up later, but your disciple is slandering others here. This matter needs to be resolved properly." Shen Xing's expression was calm, but the words that came out of her mouth were filled with a trace of toughness. Chapter 67-72. Slander. Zhen Gudao also frowned after hearing this. He had already heard a thing or two about this matter when he came, but he didn't define it as slander. "My disciple has always abided by the rules. How can you be sure that he is slandering?" Shen Xing looked at Steward Zhang, and Steward Zhang immediately understood and recounted what had happened in detail. "I've already checked these formation stones. There are no problems. If this isn't slander, then what is?" Zhen Gudao looked at the formation stones on the stall, then looked at Shen Duanyu. There was a trace of anger between his brows as he glared fiercely at Shen Duanyu. Shen Duanyu felt guilty after being glared at by his master. He could only lower his head and didn't dare to say anything else. He also didn't expect this situation. Moreover, when he saw that Grandmaster Shen wanted to stand up for Bewitching, he felt that this matter was really difficult to handle. "Grandmaster Shen, although there are no problems with these formation stones that you've checked, there are still some cultivators who have already bought formation stones. You can't guarantee that those formation stones are also fine, right?" Zhen Gudao smiled. "There should be some conflict between these two juniors. Let them resolve it themselves. As elders, we shouldn't interfere. What do you think?" "You can't say that." Shen Xing's face was solemn. Slandering others in this market isn't something that can be resolved by saying that it's a conflict between juniors. Because of this matter, this young friend has suffered quite a bit of loss. Moreover, it has also affected his reputation. How can we just let it go so easily? Shen Xing also understood that Zhen Gudao was trying to turn big issues into small ones and small ones into nothing. However, he wouldn't agree just like that. Even if it was an ordinary cultivator, he wouldn't let it go so easily. What's more, this was the disciple of that expert. If he let it go just like that, how could he face that expert in the future? But this matter is also very clear. There are so many formation stones that have been sold. No one knows if there are really any formation stones that have problems. If there really are, then my disciple isn't being framed. Isn't it too harsh to punish him because of this? Zhen Gudao naturally wouldn't let Shen Xing accuse him of this crime. Shen Duanyu's array skills were quite good now. He could also get a good spot in this array master competition. If he lost the qualification to participate because of this, then their efforts during this period would be completely wasted. Since Grandmaster Zhen doesn't agree and there is a certain relationship between me and this young friend, why don't we invite Grandmaster Ning to help examine it? Shen Xing said lightly. Zhen Gudao frowned. He hadn't expected that Shen Xing would be so uptight today. Just as Zhen Gudao was thinking about how to let this matter pass, he was interrupted by another person. A familiar voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. Damn, it can't be? Xiao Hei's eyes widened in astonishment. How could this be such a coincidence? Chapter 67-73. Bailey Hongzhuang also found it hard to believe. When she saw this stall owner earlier, even though she realized that this stall owner's strength was extraordinary, she never thought that he would actually be a grandmaster. After all, compared to Xin Xing, this grandmaster was really too stingy. Xin Xing also didn't expect that Ning Tian would actually be nearby, and a smile immediately appeared on his face. I originally thought that it would take some time to invite you here, but I didn't expect that you would just happen to be here, so there's no need to waste time. Xin Xing waved his hand and called Ning Tian over. Come and check if there's any problem with these array stones. When Ning Tian noticed that it was actually Di Beichen and Xin Xing in front of him, he was a little surprised, and the corners of his lips curled up into a faint smile. You two are already here, so why do you need me to check? You don't need to worry about that. Anyway, just check if there's any problem first. Xin Xing didn't explain much on this issue, otherwise, once he explained it clearly, it would be difficult to explain the results of Ning Tian's inspection if Zhen Gudao questioned it. Rather than that, it was better to be like now, not knowing anything, and the results of the inspection would be the fairest. Ning Tian noticed Xin Xing's expression and realized that he was serious, so he didn't refuse and began to inspect them one by one. After a long while, he put down the last array stone, and a complicated expression appeared on his face. If you must say that there's a problem with these array stones, then there's only one problem. As soon as these words came out, Shen Duanyu and the others' eyes were filled with deep surprise. Previously, Grandmaster Shen said that there was no problem, and if there was a problem now, it would prove that Grandmaster Shen was faking it. Not only would they not have any trouble, but Xin Xing and the others would have trouble instead. After hearing this, Xin Xing couldn't help but frown, not knowing what Ning Tian was up to. Grandmaster Ning, what's wrong with these array stones? Zhen Gudao was also interested at this moment. Previously, he had been trying to find a way to make Xin Xing relent, but this guy didn't have the slightest intention of relenting. Now that he found that there really was a problem, he wouldn't relent. This array stone is very well made. The array formation is very outstanding and the effect is also very good. However, isn't the price a bit too low? Ning Tian pointed at the price at the side and looked at Di Beichen speechlessly. There's something wrong with your price. Can you buy array stones of this standard at this price? Why are you always doing business at a loss? Zhen Gudao had originally thought of how he would use Ning Tian's question to attack Xin Xing, but this answer made him choke back all the words in his stomach. Master Ning, this is the problem you were talking about? Zhen Gudao asked in disbelief. Ning Tian nodded slightly and said seriously, don't underestimate this problem. This is a huge problem. This kid's array technique level is pretty good. Among array stones of the same grade, his array stone is already at the top level. However, wasn't it a pity that the price was set so low? That's simply disrespecting your own strength. Yang Qinxue and the others also opened their mouths wide as they looked at Ning Tian speechlessly. At this moment, they seemed to understand why this guy was so stingy. So not only was he like this for himself, but he also couldn't bear to see others not like this. Chapter 67-74. There was complete silence. In the face of Ning Tian's righteous indignation, the surrounding people already didn't know what to say. Shen Xing also smiled and said in agreement, "You're right, this price is indeed unworthy of the value of these formation stones." Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and looked at Di Beichen with satisfaction. I didn't expect your formation skills to be so good. Thank you for your praise, senior. Di Beichen cupped his hands with an elegant smile on his face, but he didn't feel too happy because of this praise. Zhen Gudao looked at Ning Tian with some suspicion, almost subconsciously wondering if these two fellows had teamed up to deceive them. However, in this situation, even if there really was doubt in his heart, he couldn't refute it. Otherwise, it would be no different from questioning the judgment of these two masters, which would be extremely disadvantageous to him. What's wrong with you, kid? Being humiliated like this by the two of them, Zhen Gudao's mood was also extremely bad. He also didn't expect this kid who was usually relatively smart to be so stupid this time and actually caused such a big trouble. Shen Duanyu was already panicking at this moment, his mind filled with thoughts that if this matter wasn't resolved today, then his future would be dark. Master, this Bewitching did indeed do something like this in Cloud City before. I only said this because I was worried that everyone would be fooled when I saw him swindle people again. It's just that I didn't expect the situation to be like this today. Moreover, just because some formation stones have problems doesn't mean that all formation stones have problems. Zhen Gudao nodded slightly and then said, all of you should be clear about the whole story of this matter. My disciple didn't deliberately slander him and only knew that he had done something like this in the past and was worried that everyone would be deceived, so he did this. He did this for everyone's sake, so it can't be said that it's his fault. Moreover, no one can say for sure what happened today. So many people have already bought formation stones, I can't accept the conclusion that my disciple made a mistake just like this. Looking at Zhen Gudao's determined appearance, although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had some complaints in their hearts, they also understood that it was indeed impossible to explain this point clearly at the moment. They knew that there was nothing wrong with these array stones, but as long as the other party was certain of this, they could not explain it clearly. Among all the formation stones so far, not only do they not have any problems, they are all extremely outstanding. Shen Xing said in a slow voice, this proves that his skill in the art of formations is extremely outstanding, and the possibility of what you said appearing is extremely small. Moreover, as we've said before, what Shen Duanyu said was a slander against Beichen. It's not true at all. Yang Lingfeng added. This guy kept talking about his dark history. If this guy really made it true, then wouldn't Beichen be unable to wash away this stain in the future? Grandmaster Zhen, you've heard it too. Shen Xing said with certainty, according to the rules, arbitrarily slandering others should be punished. He didn't do it on purpose. Zhen Gudao frowned. Shen Xing's attitude today was even more unyielding than usual. Could it be that you really won't give him any face? This isn't a matter of being merciful or not. It concerns the rules of the market. Chapter 67-75. Shen Xing didn't pay any attention to Zhen Gudao's words at all. What kind of person was that expert? His disciple had actually been slandered like this. If this matter was brushed aside so easily, how could it be worthy of that expert's previous guidance? Everyone nodded when they heard this. Although these words sounded a little unreasonable, it was indeed the case when they thought about it carefully. It was indeed unfair to testify like this before things were clear. If they hadn't met Master Shin today, or if they had met Master Zhen directly, perhaps Beichen's innocence would never be proven. Zhen Gudao's brows were tightly knitted. There is a reason for this matter. It's not like this has never happened in the past few years. We can't accept this kind of punishment. Even if this matter is brought to the guild, it won't end here. Shen Duanyu quietly breathed a sigh of relief when he saw his master protecting him like this. Although the situation was still grim, as long as his master was here, he shouldn't be stripped of his qualifications. Seeing this, Ning Tian couldn't help but stand up and say, we've known each other for many years. In my opinion, this matter doesn't need to be so tense. However, this matter was originally Master Zhen's disciple's fault. I feel that an apology must be made and the other party's innocence be proven. Master Zhen, what do you think? Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't quite understand this series of procedures, they could guess from their expressions that it would be somewhat difficult to completely convict Shen Duanyu of this crime because the evidence wasn't comprehensive enough. Under such circumstances, they should at least make the other party apologize first. Seeing that Ning Tian had relented, Zhen Gudao's expression also improved slightly. He turned his head and said, Duanyu, you may indeed have not investigated this matter clearly. Just apologize. Shen Duanyu looked at his master. Even though he was still somewhat unwilling in his heart, he understood that this was already the lightest punishment at present. Beichen, I'm sorry. I may have made a mistake in my investigation. I'm very sorry. What do you mean by, may? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and asked. Even now, this fellow was still insisting on this point. In the future, it was even more likely that he would criticize him on this point. It's impossible to investigate this matter thoroughly, isn't it? Shen Duanyu asked. Based on the current situation, I did make a mistake. When he said these words, Shen Duanyu had an obedient expression on his face, which made people unable to continue to criticize him, because this point was not clear. Everyone present also understood the whole story. They were not stupid. Although Shen Duanyu's crime was not confirmed, everyone knew that there must be a grudge between the two, so Shen Duanyu deliberately ruined it. If it weren't for Xin Xing's appearance today, Bewitching would probably be removed from the world of array masters in the future. Besides that, I'll make this matter public so that it won't affect this young friend, Xin Xing said with a calm expression. You. A trace of indignation appeared on Zheng Gudao's face. They had already gone this far, yet Xin Xing still refused to let go. If this matter was made public, it would mean that this matter would be announced to everyone in the Array Formation Master Guild. At that time, the one who would lose face would be Shen Duanyu. If you don't want to, then I don't mind making a scene. Shen Xing's attitude was cold, and she wasn't worried at all. Chapter 67-76. After Zheng Gudao and Xin Xing left, Ning Tian smiled at Bewitching and said, "Don't worry, after this matter is made public, it won't affect you. In the future, no one will use this matter to slander you." Thank you, masters. Bewitching and the others bowed respectfully. If it weren't for the two of them testifying, their situation today would have been much more difficult. Ning Tian waved his hand. I've always ignored such matters. If you want to thank someone, thank this guy. He has always liked to meddle in other people's business. Ning Tian. Xin Xing frowned. All right, pretend I didn't say anything. Ning Tian waved his hand. But kid, there really is a problem with the price you set. The design of this array is very advanced. Although it's of the same level, even if it's a higher level trap array, the effect won't be much better than yours. If you sell it at such a price, others will be taking advantage of you. Ning Tian thought for a moment and directly changed the price of this array stone. It was clearly much higher than the previous price. That's more like it. It's not a disgrace to this array stone. Ning Tian chuckled. Looking at the situation, the array stones that were returned just now weren't few in number. In the end, it's not a big loss. Seeing that Ning Tian had so thoughtfully designed all of this for them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sure enough, Master Ning couldn't bear to see people suffer losses in this aspect. When the onlookers saw the two masters praising Bewitching's array stone, regret surfaced in their eyes. In that case, this array stone's value is very high. If I had known, I wouldn't have returned it. I told you not to return it first, but you were in such a hurry. Now the price has doubled. I really didn't expect that Shen Duanyu was the one lying. Even I fell for his trick. In the blink of an eye, the price of this array stone had doubled. The cultivators who had rushed back in a hurry and hadn't had time to return it breathed a sigh of relief. They were happy that they had gotten a bargain. Ning Tian had planned to leave after dealing with all this. However, after noticing the pills on the stall, a trace of curiosity appeared on his face. Previously, when he was inspecting the array stone, he had already smelled this pill fragrance. This pill fragrance seemed to be richer than the other pills, which made him quite interested. Cold Prince Concubine Man, girl, did you refine this pill? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Ning Tian took out the pill and looked at it. Immediately, her eyes lit up. Your alchemy skills are not bad. Senior also knows alchemy? Bailey Hongzhuang had originally thought that Ning Tian was an alchemist. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been so obsessed with pill recipes. However, after learning that he was an array master, she dismissed that thought. Now that she saw his views on alchemy, she couldn't help but feel curious. Grandmaster Ning is not only an array master, but also an alchemist, Xin Xing introduced with a smile. So that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Ning Tian waved his hand. I'm already so old. There's no need to flatter me. Although this is the first time I've seen this little girl, her alchemy skills should be inherited from a master. The effect of the same pill refined by you is actually 20% higher than that of an ordinary pill. This is not simple. Chapter 6777. Yang Qinxue and Yang Qintian already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's pills were extraordinary, so they weren't surprised to hear this. However, these words were tantamount to a heavy bomb in the ears of others. Such an astonishing medicinal effect was something that even some alchemy grandmasters could not achieve. Yet, this young girl in front of him was actually able to do it. In addition, there was this kid with outstanding array skills. Could it be that all the newcomers were already so powerful? Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked when she saw that Ning Tian could determine the medicinal effects with just a glance. She understood that Ning Tian's alchemy skills must be very powerful. I've been studying alchemy for many years, but I've only made some progress, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. She had been trying to figure out this method in the past, but after learning from her mother-in-law, she had mastered the knack of it. Now, with the help of the blood demon crystal, the medicinal effects of this pill were even more outstanding. Ning Tian's gaze swept over the humble Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, and she couldn't help but shake her head. The useless ones are used to being arrogant, while the capable ones are so humble. It's really the opposite. I don't want to criticize you, but why do you all like to do business at a loss? If your masters see you like this, won't they despise you? Ning Tian's expression was one of disappointment. She looked at the price. The item was clearly better than others, but the price wasn't higher at all. Wasn't this a waste of God's gifts? Facing the grief-stricken senior in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched slightly. So, just how much did Ning Tian love money? Senior, the price wasn't set as low as we thought. It's just that we're new here and don't have much fame. If the price was set too high, I don't think anyone would buy it. The reason why we set such a price is to let everyone know. Bailey Hongzhuang explained the reason why they did this. Only when their reputations spread would they have a chance to sell their items at a higher price. Hearing this, Shen Xing nodded slightly. These little guys aren't unreasonable. This is a smart choice. There's no need for that now. With me here, who can say that your things aren't worth the price? Ning Tian had an arrogant expression on his face. His expression made it clear that no one could refute his words. Senior, why don't you look at this? Bailey Hongzhuang took out another pill and placed it in front of Ning Tian. This was the pill that she wanted to sell this time. However, based on the original price, she wouldn't have sold it. She had wanted to wait until everyone understood the effects of the pill before selling it. Now that Ning Tian was around, she might be able to bring forward this plan. Ning Tian took the pill with a playful look in his eyes. However, when he took a closer look at the pill, his expression changed. This pill is quite interesting. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth rose slightly, while Shen Xing, Yang Lingfeng, and the others were a little curious. They didn't know what kind of pill could make Hongzhuang and Grandmaster Ning care so much about it. Little girl, compared to ordinary pills, the effects of your pill have increased by 40%, right? There was a hint of uncertainty in Ning Tian's voice. She carefully examined the pill and slowly voiced her thoughts. Chapter 6778. They had always known that Hongzhuang's pills had outstanding effects. However, a 40% increase was a little too heaven-defying. Even with Hongzhuang's failure rate, it was still worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Senior, you have a good eye. As soon as these words came out, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at the Dan in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, their eyes became fiery. A 40% increase in the medicinal effects of an ordinary pill might not be very impressive. However, for a pill that could only be taken in small quantities, a 40% increase in medicinal effects was simply heaven-defying. This was especially true for pills that could help in breaking through. If the medicinal effects could be increased by this much, it would mean that the success rate of breaking through would increase greatly. This was something that no other pill could provide. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had admitted it, Ning Tian's gaze changed. Little girl, you're really interesting. No wonder I thought that you had great foresight. Now, it seems that I was right. exchanging an eternal azure spirit pill for a Buddha gilded body pill. Most young people would not make such a choice. However, although this little girl looked young, she was very mature and did things very well. She was not the least bit rash and was very likable. "Senior, you flatter me." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "Senior, why don't you set a price for my pill?" "All right." Ning Tian did not refuse. She turned around and wrote a price on the sign. The price was doubled. "If you change the type of pill, its value will not be comparable to this price. What do you think?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the price and nodded her head. Previously, she had only wanted to practice, so the dan she had refined were all common dan. The immortal herbs needed to refine these pills were not very valuable and were very easy to find. They were most suitable for practice. Then, Ning Tian placed the blood spirit stone in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. "I'll buy this pill." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ning Tian in surprise. "Senior? I'm very curious about the refining method of this pill. If I were to ask you directly, wouldn't it be very boring? Moreover, it would seem like I'm bullying a junior. Let me go back and do some research. Let's have a good chat the next time we meet." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. She only felt that this senior's personality was really very interesting. Shen Xing couldn't help but shake her head. This guy was always like this, but it was precisely because of this personality that he was able to focus on his studies. "You guys can set up your stalls here in peace. If there's anything else, come and find us." Ning Tian put the pill away and immediately wanted to go back and study it properly. Chapter 67-79. In the face of this lively scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not find it strange. It was all within their expectations. However, at this moment, everyone consciously took out the revised price when they bought it. Since Grandmaster Ning had bought it at such a high price, how could they bargain with him for it? Some of the cultivators who were originally clamoring for a refund were incomparably hesitant. It was not because they felt that the price was more expensive, but because they did not know if the other party would be willing to ignore them if they asked to buy again. After all, what they did before was a little too much. In this regard, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Qinghan did not care. For this kind of thing, it was Shin Duanyu's fault. As for these people, they were just led astray. It was not their fault. In a short period of time, the pills and array stones had been snapped up. By the time more cultivators arrived, they had run out of things to sell. Have they all been sold out? Are there any more tomorrow? I can pay a higher price. Can you sell me a set? In the face of everyone's request, Bewitching directly gave a negative answer. They had sold all the stock they had on them. In the days before the start of the competition, they did not plan to go into seclusion to produce, so it was impossible for them to sell again. However, he told everyone the name of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion in Cloud City. If they needed it in the future, they could directly go to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to buy it. Hearing this, everyone left in satisfaction. Phew! Yang Qingxue only breathed a sigh of relief when the crowd dispersed. This scene is really too lively. I feel like this has attracted everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. This is all because of the two masters. If it were not for the two masters, they obviously would not have been able to sell all the things in such a short period of time. Shen Duanyu has become your stepping stone. Now, your reputation has become even more resounding. Yang Lingfeng raised his eyebrows. Originally, they were just selling things, so there were probably not many people who knew their names. However, now that they had received the praise of the two masters, more people knew about them. Moreover, with Shen Duanyu as a comparison, their reputation was even more famous. Shen Duanyu miscalculated today's matter. I'm sure he's being scolded badly now. If Zhen Gudao had not rushed over, he would have been in a miserable situation today. Yang Qingxue felt that it was a pity. If Zhen Gudao had come a little later, the ending might have been different. Today's results are already very good. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the blood spirit stones in the Chengkuan bag. We can go buy the things we need again. Because the price was much higher than before, the number of blood spirit stones was also much higher than expected. Seeing this, Yang Qingxue and her brother couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy in their eyes, but more than that, they were happy. Without a secondary occupation, they had no other means to make money. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a Qianquan bag and handed it to Yang Qinxue. "Thank you for your help, this is yours." Yang Qinxue looked at the Qianquan bag with some confusion. When she found that there was a certain amount of blood spirit stones inside, she couldn't help but be shocked and quickly retreated. "We didn't do anything. How can we take your blood spirit stones?" Chapter 6780. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a warm smile. In fact, she was even more happy that Yang Qinxue didn't have the slightest intention of distancing herself from the matter, but instead argued for them. They were Master Zhen's disciples. It was not easy for them to do this. She had always been a person who respected others tenfold. Since Yang Qinxue and Di Lingfeng were willing to stand by their side, she naturally wanted to do her best to help them. Friendship was mutual. "You're too polite. What we did was nothing." Yang Qinxue waved her hand. She was still determined. "Anyway, we can't accept these things." "That's right. If we have to take revenge like this for such a small matter, what kind of people would we be?" Yang Lingfeng was also determined. Although they had taken a fancy to many treasures, they planned to trick their father into giving them some when they returned. Hong Zhuang and Di Lingfeng had just arrived in the chaotic immortal realm. Even if they had secondary professions, they would not be rich. Their father was different. After being the city lord for so many years, he would have a lot of surplus food on hand. Seeing that the two of them were determined, Bailey Hongzhuang did not force them. She only bought the medicinal herbs that Yang Lingfeng and Di Lingfeng needed. In fact, she had already determined the medicinal pills they needed just by looking at the medicinal herbs they bought. Since they did not accept the blood spirit stone, she might as well refine the medicinal pills. At the same time, she could save some for them in the future. After strolling around the market, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen bought a lot of things. Just as they were about to go back, they saw Yang Han and the others rushing over. When Yang Han saw Yang Qinxue and the others, he quickly rushed over. His face was full of worry. "Are you guys okay?" Yang Qinxue looked at Yang Han in confusion. "What could have happened to us? Fan Guangshuan and the others said that you guys got into a fight with Shen Duanyu?" Yang Han also looked at Fan Guangshuan. Originally, he was still chatting happily with his friends when he saw Fan Guangshuan and his group rushing over to inform him of the news. As soon as he heard the news, he understood the seriousness of the matter and immediately rushed over without caring about anything else. His mind was originally filled with thoughts of how to rescue them from this predicament, but he never thought that after coming here, it seemed as if nothing had happened. That was indeed the case, but it has been resolved. Yang Qinxue also looked at Fan Guangshuan and the others with a faint smile in her eyes. Although these guys had always been mean and ruthless, they would still report the incident as soon as it happened. It could be seen that deep down, they still cared about them. After all, they were all in the same team. "It's already been resolved?" Yang Han also found it hard to believe. "How was it resolved?" "Grandmaster Shen Xing and Grandmaster Ning Tian came to help us out. This matter was originally slander by Shen Duanyu. Now that Grandmaster Zhen has brought him back to teach him a lesson, this news will soon spread throughout the entire small world." Yang Qinxue knew that if she didn't explain it clearly, her father wouldn't be at ease. So, she told him the whole story. Chapter 6782. Bailey Hongzhuang could see that Shen Xing respected Senior Zhong Li from the bottom of his heart. If he met Zhong Li's junior, he would definitely treat him as his own junior and nurture him well. However, since they had met this time, they would probably meet again in the future. There would always be a chance. Just as everything was going smoothly for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Shen Duanyu was suffering the wrath of his own master. "You idiot! You didn't even get to the bottom of the matter before running over to accuse others. If the other party was a nobody without any backing, then so be it. But both Shen Xing and Ning Tian are helping him. Aren't you just seeking your own death?" Zhen Gudao's eyes were full of anger. Because of this matter, he was once again a level lower in front of Shen Xing. "Master, that Di Beichen indeed has no background, but I don't know why the two grandmasters are helping him so much." Shen Duanyu also felt aggrieved. He was all too clear about Bewitching's background. He was almost certain that they had never met before this. Even with his status as the city lord of Qingyang City, it was impossible for him to be on this path. Who would have thought that this most impossible thing would actually happen? If he didn't have any background, Shen Xing's attitude today wouldn't be just this. Zhen Gudao snorted coldly. He and Shen Xing had interacted for so many years. Although they had never gotten along, this was the first time they had been so insistent. Spoiled demonic wife. Meow, do you dare answer? If there was no relationship between the two of them, then it would really be strange. It's just that after Grandmaster Shen saw the mark on the formation stone that Bewitching created, he was certain that his master had once given him guidance. I also felt that it was baffling. Who would have thought that it would be for such a reason? Shen Duanyu was also convinced. He just didn't understand how Grandmaster Shen could be so certain of all this just from this point. Bewitching was merely a cultivator who had just ascended not long ago. How could he possibly have such a background? It's actually because of this? Zhen Gudao was also somewhat incredulous. Has this Shen Xing gone senile? Perhaps he knows that you're my disciple, so he's deliberately finding fault with you. Zhen Gudao didn't believe these groundless things. Instead, it seemed more like he was targeting him. Master, will we really tell everyone about this? Shen Duanyu's face was bitter. If this news was made known to everyone, wouldn't he become a joke? I'm afraid this matter can't be changed. Let's just leave it at that. It won't be long before everyone forgets about this. It's fine. Zhen Gudao waved his hand. The competition is about to begin. Behave yourself for the time being and don't cause any more trouble. Yes, master. Shen Duanyu breathed a sigh of relief. His master had already attributed all of this to the grudges between the four of them, and it had nothing to do with him. Bewitching, just you wait. Shen Duanyu clenched his fists, his eyes filled with hatred. A nameless pawn actually dared to take down his name. He wanted to see just how strong this guy's array techniques were. As long as he defeated this brat in the array master competition, then all the rumors from before would disappear without a trace. Instead, it would increase his popularity even more. But he had just walked out when a man came in front of Shen Duanyu. The matter you asked me to inquire about earlier, I've already found out. Who was the person who exchanged the Buddha Gilded Body Pill's pill formula? But it was a pity that the success rate of refining pills was way too low. So many precious immortal herbs were wasted just like that. What a pity. I wonder what kind of pill Hong Zhuang is concocting. I think we should completely give up on the idea of learning alchemy. Otherwise, just these immortal herbs alone will exhaust us. Yang Lingfeng sighed. Even if he had the city lord as a father, he still couldn't afford to be drained like this. Indeed, I feel that Hong Zhuang's path has not been easy. A trace of heartache appeared in Yang Qinshue's eyes. If an alchemist did not have a strong enough background and had to rely on themselves, then this path would be too difficult. Bailey Hong Zhuang, who was concentrating on refining pills, was completely unaware that the siblings outside were actually doting on her so much. If she knew, her feelings would probably be very complicated. Chapter 6787. I'm here because I've heard some news. Bai Qingli's brows furrowed in seriousness and her voice deepened. There's a rumor going around that you have 2 lost pill formulas in your possession. As soon as she said this, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others' expressions changed slightly. It was obvious that she was talking about the Buddha's Gilded Body Pill and the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill. I've heard about what had happened at the market. Shen Duanyu had purposely slandered you, but later on, the rumor turned into Master Ning's deliberate protection of you. The reason is because of these 2 pill formulas? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked. Bai Qingli nodded. That's right. Fuck, this must be Shen Duanyu's doing. That fellow is truly despicable and shameless. Yang Lingfeng cursed. He had thought that Shen Duanyu would stop after suffering such a loss. He never thought that not only would this fellow refuse to stop, he would even spread such a rumor. Even a fool would know that this news would benefit Shen Duanyu the most. Not only would it help him lessen the impact from before, it would also pour dirty water on them. It's not just us. This basin of dirty water has affected the two great masters as well. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Compared to their own situation, this was nothing much. After all, Shen Duanyu was an expert in these kinds of tricks. However, the two great masters were fair people, yet they had been given such a title. I didn't expect Shen Duanyu's speed to be so fast. Although we stopped in front of Master Ning's booth for a while, there shouldn't be many people who know about it. Who would have thought that this guy actually figured it out? Yang Qingxue looked worried. What should we do now? No one would dare to have any ideas about the lost pill formulas in the great master's hands. However, if everyone knows that you have the lost pill formulas, this matter will become complicated. Although most of the cultivators in the realm of chaotic immortals have not broken through to the elementary immortal stage, they were weak and alone. How could they possibly compare to the other party's strength in numbers? Once these people joined forces against them, even if her father were to intervene, they would not be able to stop them. Father is worried about this, which is why he asked me to inform you. Bai Qingli looked nervous. Why don't you stay with us for the next 2 days? Before more people find out, it'll be safer for us to stay together. Does that mean we can't go out for a few days? Yang Qingxue frowned. Based on the current situation, it's best not to go out. Otherwise, there will be danger. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also understood the seriousness of the situation. In this small world, there were many powerful cultivators. If they were not careful, not only would they be in trouble, even the people of Qingyang City and Xiyun City would be in trouble. If we don't leave the house, won't we be letting Shen Duanyu take advantage of us? Yang Lingfeng was unwilling. He couldn't accept letting this guy be so smug. At this moment, Di Beichen's voice rang out. He won't be proud for long. Everyone's gaze involuntarily turned towards him. Could it be that Beichen planned to thoroughly defeat him in the array master competition? Master Ning is not someone to be bullied. Di Beichen continued. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's right. Shen Duanyu might have dug a hole for himself. When she was in Penglai Palace, something like this had happened. She almost lost her life, but fortunately she made it through. Now that they were here, they had no interest in trying again. It's very safe to stay in the house, but I think father will be in trouble. Yang Qingxue's expression was complicated. She subconsciously looked upstairs. What do you mean? The eternal azure spirit pill. Not to mention ordinary cultivators, even the city lord would not be able to ignore this benefit. Chapter 6789. Yang Qingxue was very familiar with this kind of routine. In short, this was indeed a big problem. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill was not a very high-grade pill, but it could help a cultivator to refine the yuan power in their body, making it more condensed. This pill could be said to be suitable for any cultivator. However, as time passed, there were fewer and fewer people who had the pill formula. Now, although everyone knew about this pill, there were very few who had actually seen it. The Eternal Azure Spirit Pill had appeared before. At that time, it was sold at a very shocking price. Moreover, it was gone in the blink of an eye, which was very regrettable. It was because of this that they were so shocked when they found out that Hong Zhuang had the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill formula. Coincidentally, I have a few Eternal Azure Spirit Pills in my hands. Why don't you give them to the city lord? Perhaps he'll have an easier time? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with thoughts. This matter was all because of her. Personally, she did not want to cause any trouble for others. You have the Eternal Azure Spirit Pill in your hands? Yang Qingxue cried out in surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I had wanted to give this pill to you before, but you refused. Refused? Refused? Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's casual and calm look, Yang Qingxue and Yang Lingfeng hated that they could not take a brick and knock themselves unconscious. They had actually refused such a precious and rare pill. Was there something wrong with their brains? They could not help but recall the few times Hong Zhuang had wanted to give them the pill. However, They thought that it was too difficult for Hong Zhuang to refine the pill, so they had not accepted it. Until Hong Zhuang had given them the immortal establishment pill, because they really needed it, they did not refuse. However, it was only at this moment that they realized that the pills they had refused were so expensive. Bai Qingli looked at Yang Lingfeng and Yang Lingfeng's expressions and could not help but laugh. Refused the eternal azure spirit pill? If this news were to spread, everyone would think that these two had gone mad. Hong Zhuang, it's not easy for you to refine the pill. Yang Qinxue quickly recovered. Although she could not help but feel regret, she was more concerned. Let my father worry about it. It's just a little more effort, it's not a big deal. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. These pills are not difficult to refine. I don't want to keep causing trouble for City Lord Yang. I feel uneasy. What's there to feel uneasy about? It's fine. Yang Ling said nonchalantly. Yang Lingfeng's, Yang and Yang's expressions, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were speechless. Was it really okay to trick his own father like this? Yes, Hong Zhuang. Yang Qinxue saw Bailey Hong Zhuang's stubbornness and couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't help but say, actually, we all know how difficult it is for you to refine pills. Don't force yourself. Forced? Bailey Hong Zhuang was puzzled. I'm not forcing myself. Sigh, Yang Lingfeng sighed. Yang Lingfeng sighed. He understood that if he didn't expose this matter, it would be troublesome in the future. He said, we've already seen the failure rate of your alchemy. You should keep this alchemy pill that you've refined with great difficulty. With Hong Zhuang's terrible failure rate, who knew how many precious herbs she had to use to refine these pills, not to mention the effort. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.